Hey buddies, Miss Puggy here, coming at you with another Borderlands 3 video. Today, I wanted to discuss the possibility of a new element being introduced in the Tiny Tina's Wonderland. It's kind of a trope in the Borderlands game with every single sequel, or sometimes a pre-sequel, like the pre-sequel, we get a new element that adds another fun factor to the game and more characteristics to the guns. Like the pre-sequel added cryo, Borderlands 2 added slag, Borderlands 3 added radiation, and with Tiny Tina's, we don't know what the next element's going to be, but it's always fun to debate and discuss on what we believe would be the most fun. So I actually have a list right here that shows 10 different element ideas for the next game that could possibly be really interesting, but it's up to Gearbox whether or not they implement it. Now, before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps me out, and let's get into it. The first one that I actually do find that they could add like 100% and kind of feel like they might already be doing it as we speak would maybe be a magic/arcane element. Now, the reason why I say that is because we already know that Magic Missile in Borderlands 2 for the Bunkers and Badasses DLC was slag elemented, so they're more than likely going to add some of those grenades back as spells into the game, like how we had Chain Lightning, Fireball, and Magic Missile, just to name a couple. And we don't have slag anymore unless they decide to reintroduce slag into the game. But since we don't have slag in the game, they gotta find a new element that would match Magic Missile. And most of the time in D&D or like RPGs, Magic Missiles and like Arcane are usually purplish and stuff, so unless they decide to reintroduce slag, they're probably gonna want to go for a new element or just make Magic Missiles a kinetic itself, which could be a bit boring, but I would really find it interesting to get guns and other spells that are just arcane based. Now these could just be like purple, but like with hints of blue and like neon stuff, as you see in like, for example, World of Warcraft. Whenever your character uses arcane magic, it does like little purple and blues, like really nice mesh of beautiful colors. Arcane is usually in RPGs, so I could definitely see that be a thing. The main characteristic of that being able to go through shields or armor, like kind of like this element is like a pierce, like it allows you to just bypass certain shields, armor in that case, to allow you to just hit the health pool right off the bat. Now, of course, with that being said, that would mean that the element itself would have to be not deal as much damage as other elements, or not even make a dot. Maybe it makes a dot, I don't know, but it's always fun to see what other people will say, so maybe you guys have a better idea for Arcane. I think that's a really cool idea. Now, we are going to be an RPG world. We already know the elements we currently have are fire, shock, poison/corrosive. Well, it's corrosive in the game, but it might just be considered poison in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Radiation, which I don't know what you would consider that in RPG land, but right off the bat, we do have a lot of the main 5 elements that you see in most RPGs, so the only 3 other remaining ones that aren't in the game already that could be added into an RPG-based world would be wind, earth, or water. Now, let's first go with the boring one that I personally feel would be water. Water is very, very boring sounding to me. I couldn't think of a lot of ways that they could implement water to be unique in as other elements. Water could maybe just push the enemy like a CC or something. Maybe that would be like their generic special property. Perhaps you could soak the enemy and then shock damage would be able to deal extra damage, but that kind of sounds like slag with extra steps. So let's move on to more exciting, maybe earth. I feel like earth would be really, really cool. Maybe when you shoot the bullets, since it is a magical world, maybe these bullets will be able to apply stacks to the enemy. With enough stacks, maybe a giant spike from the ground goes up or something. I'm not sure if that'd be too easy for them to develop, honestly, but I'm sure they could figure out a way, or maybe just like a little rock that hover above them and it slams on their head after a couple of stacks. That'd be nice, but these are just basic tropes in RPGs that you see often, so I'm just going out with one of those. Besides that, wind wouldn't be that very exciting, similar to water. Maybe it'd be like CC, you could levitate people up in the air or something, or like push them back. I don't find the 5 basic elements to be that exciting. I feel like fire and shock is enough. I feel like out of all those, earth is the most exciting. But let's move on to something that would be actually a really decent idea. Maybe a charm element. In a lot of RPGs, there's a lot of CCs like polymorph, charm, bleed, stuff like that. I could see charm being a cool element to add to the game. You basically shoot an enemy like maybe like a Cupid heart. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term charm means. It basically just makes your opponent turn onto your side, which basically allows them to shoot the enemies, so that your enemy becomes an ally for a few moments. It'd be really nice. We actually have a grenade in the game called the Mesmer, I believe it's called, that allows you to turn enemies into allies for a few moments. And we also have Flak's Dominate skill, which allows you to do that as well with the whip. So I could definitely see them just easily implementing that into the game, into guns, since they already have the technology to do that in Borderlands 3. And since we're already on the RPG CC's train, let's go for maybe Bleed. If you shoot the enemy with the Bleed gun, or maybe they'll just call it Blood, it doesn't really matter. They just start bleeding, have a high dot, as opposed to most elements, they'd have not great dots. This could be an element that allows you to deal crazy amounts of dot damage, or we could even knock it up even more. On my list here, I have Vampire, which is a lifesteal element. We could combine the two, so Bleed and lifesteal together. So Bleed element, or let's just call it Blood. Let's just call it Blood. Blood guns or blood element type weapons would give you lifesteal and apply a high damaging dot on the opponent. I could see them being really fun and creative, just making it kind of like all over the place, since we do have Tiny Tina's mind basically in control here, so she will be able to think up all these ideas, so the developers can go as crazy as possible with these elements if they want. So they could just make it as grotesque or maybe just fancy as they want with the blood. I don't know, maybe they'll make it like blood bending or something, I don't know. Let's move on to the next two elements here that could possibly be in the game. I know this is like the key word of the video. RPG tropes oftentimes have holy or like dark as like a type of element or a type of archetype that is used by certain characters. We could see maybe a holy or just light type element gun that basically just blinds your opponent and deal radiant damage, like how clerics do it in D&D, or paladins do it, like smite the enemy with that or something. If you're playing multiplayer, maybe it could just heal your allies when you shoot them or something. I don't know. I feel like they probably wouldn't add that particular aspect, but blinding the enemy would be pretty cool, reducing their chances on hitting you in general. Maybe it'd be too hard for them to make a new character behavior on hit where they won't hit you, but instead when you hit the enemy, it gives them a chance on hit on you, like when they shoot a bullet at you, to just miss entirely, maybe like by like 30% chance. I'm sure they could calculate that into the game. They've never had miss damage in the game before. That could be a really cool opportunity to just add and just experiment with. And once again, we have the opposite spectrum of light. We have dark. It could just be actually, now that I think about it, dark and light would be really similar. Dark would just blind your enemies and like stuff like that, so maybe that's not very exciting. So let's not go too much on that one. Dark and light could be give or take the same freaking idea in the elements. I did want to mention a particularly cool idea I saw on Reddit by a user named Arvin Rule. He said nanomites or nanmites. These would be nanorobots that either attack or defend you. Basically, when you it's like little robots that you shoot out of your gun, and when you infect an enemy, it could cause the bots to debuff the enemy, or like maybe these nanobots can come to your aid and like shield you, give you like a shield bonus or something like that. You could cause the bots to glitch or something, maybe allowing them to just go haywire and just constantly crowd the enemy. It'd be a nice little dot to have in the game. I think that's a really cool idea. Besides that, I'm trying my best to go off the script and try to think of other element ideas, but I think that's all the ideas I have fresh in my mind and that I wrote down. I can't figure out any other elements to really choose from in most RPGs besides the ones we already listed. So what I want to hear from you guys is some of your ideas. What element do you think should be in the next game for Tiny Tina and Wonderland? What do you think is a really fun idea? Or if you had a favorite of one of the elements that I talked about, tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.